Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a lot to talk about today in the world of Palantir. Over the weekend, a lot happened in regards to Sam Altman, OpenAI. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. today on November 20th, and there's new developments in the story. I think it has a ton of implications for Palantir, so we're going to discuss that. That's the first part of today's episode. Number two, The Guardian, one of the UK's largest publications, has come out and given us an update on the Palantir NHS situation. We're going to discuss that. And then finally, at the end of this episode, we're going to be discussing a hedge fund that has made Palantir one of their largest positions as of their latest 13F filings. And it's one of those hedge funds that you're going to want to know is buying more Palantir because it's run by someone who's one of the smartest people in the world. There's a lot to talk about. Palantir Daily, we're back. Let's get into it. Okay, so I think the first thing we need to do is just take a second to breathe because the news that happened over the weekend was quite interesting, one could argue. Another person could argue it's quite sad for OpenAI in terms of how Sam Altman was ousted as the CEO of OpenAI. For those that don't know what OpenAI is, essentially it's one of the largest non-profits, I say that with quotes for anyone that's just listening, that has existed since 2014 or 2015. Elon Musk funded the nonprofit initially with $40 million to get them going. And the whole concept was to be a hedge against Google having too much corporate power over AI. And the idea was, all right, if there is a nonprofit that doesn't have a profit incentive to be able to advance artificial intelligence technology, then when the technology becomes too strong or too powerful, there will be a board of directors that can say, all right, we're going to ethically implement it. We're not going to be motivated by trillions and trillions of dollars. So let's figure out what we do in order to make sure that AI has ethical implementation in society. The problem is when they ended up releasing ChatGPT, which was their first consumer product back in March of 2023, and it then, as of today, about 7-8 months later, has 100 million weekly active users, you start to see that there is a lot of profit and corporate interest involved on a product that's successful. And so the question becomes, if the product was that successful, what is the reason for it? They are valued on the secondary markets at $86 billion. So it's a company that's doing about $1 billion in revenue. Palantir, for context, is valued at $40 billion, going to do about $2.1 billion in revenue. So why is OpenAI getting this valuation? And part of the reason was because of Sam Altman. For those that don't know Sam Altman, basically, he's referred to in Silicon Valley as Steve Jobs 2.0. He is someone who has been in the startup world, the tech ecosystem, Silicon Valley since 2005, has built startups, sold startups, angel invested in Stripe, Uber, Airbnb, etc. He's one of those key figures that has been involved in growing massive tech companies and was at the founding of OpenAI for the past 10 years. And as a result of that, he was ousted as CEO primarily from all the data I'm gathering because the board of directors realized that Sam was caring too much about profit incentives, profit motives. He is the one who anchored the Microsoft partnership where Microsoft owns a 49% stake in OpenAI by investing $10 billion into the company last year. And as a result of that, the board of directors was like, you know what, we're getting rid of this guy. Here is a timeline of events that I wanted to discuss that kind of gives a little bit of context of what's going on here and why it's so important to kind of look at how things are going on. And then we'll talk about the latest updates and what this means for Palantir. So first, you need to know these 5 people. Sam Altman, founder and CEO of OpenAI. Ilya, co-founder, chief scientist, and board member of OpenAI. Greg, he was the president of OpenAI. Mira, CTO, and Microsoft largest OpenAI shareholder. Sam Altman owns no equity in OpenAI. So another thing to pay attention. Thursday, November 16th, Sam Altman goes to an AI art event in a warehouse in Oakland. 10:40, Sam Altman leaves the warehouse. 11 p.m., Ilya texts Sam Altman asking him to talk at 3 p.m. the next day. So 11 p.m., Sam does this talk around AI at some art house. And then at 11, Ilya's like, hey, we got to have a discussion. 11:10, Ilya tells Mira about the plan to fire Sam Altman and make her the interim CEO. So at 10 o'clock, he gave a talk. At 11:10, Ilya, who was one of the board members, was planning Sam's departure. Friday, November 17th, Sam Altman joins the Google Meets call. The entire OpenAI board except Greg is on the call. The board tells Sam he is fired. 3:19, Ilya texts Greg asking him to join the call. Greg is one of Sam's best friend and is the president of OpenAI. Greg joins the Google Meets call and is told he is being kicked off the board, but not as the president. The funniest thing is that they're doing this over Google Meets versus Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI. All right. 3:26, the OpenAI board tells Microsoft about the firing. Microsoft was blindsided by this. They did not know about this until it was done. And they're the largest shareholder in OpenAI. 3:28, OpenAI makes the news of firing Sam Altman public. 3:30, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was blindsided and became furious. 7:09, Greg announced that he was quitting OpenAI in retaliation for Sam's firing. So Greg's like, you know what? I'm out as well. Saturday, November 18th, Sam Altman is in talks to raise money for a new AI company, and Greg will join him. So Sam Altman was rumored a couple of months ago to be starting a new AI company with Johnny Ives, who was the former head of design at Apple. The idea was, can we make a new consumer device powered by AI that kind of goes against Apple, right? So a really big vision. 2 p.m., Microsoft and other OpenAI investors start pressuring the OpenAI board to bring back Sam. 4 p.m., the OpenAI board was in discussions to bring back Sam Altman as the CEO. 4:10, Sam Altman has mixed feelings about coming back to OpenAI, but if he did, he would want significant governance changes. After all of that has happened, today, 4 a.m., Monday, November 20th, 2023, Satya Nadella tweets, "We remain committed to our partnership with OpenAI and confidence in our product roadmap, our ability to continue to innovate with everything we announced at Microsoft Ignite, and in continuing to support our customers and partners. We look forward to getting to know Emmett Shear, who is the former CEO of Twitch, who was this morning announced the new CEO of OpenAI, which is just like insane, and OpenAI's new leadership team and working with them. And here's the kicker, we're extremely excited to share the news that Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, together with colleagues, will be joining Microsoft to lead an advanced AI research team. We look forward to moving quickly to provide them with the resources needed for their success." And if we go to Sam Altman's Twitter, he has quote tweeted and said, "The mission continues." So Sam Altman and Greg Brockman are now joining an internal team at Microsoft in which Sam Altman is the CEO. This is a AI research team. My opinion, it's going to be creating some level of an AI competitor to OpenAI, something that's even more sophisticated because now you've got a $3 trillion company's resources backing you up to build this. It's just incredible for Sam Altman in this new role. I mean, he has the full reins over this. He has a corporate interest over this. He has a profitability interest over this, and he has Satya Nadella's support. And Satya Nadella is the CEO of one of the largest companies in the entire world. And now that the internal AI research team can do whatever they want to do. In my opinion, Satya Nadella has basically said, Sam, screw OpenAI. We're going to buy them out when their valuation goes from $86 billion to zero. Because basically, I don't know what investor is going to be happy buying private shares of OpenAI at an $86 billion valuation, now knowing that the leader, the founder, the visionary, the guy that was just presenting 2 weeks ago around custom GPTs and this new marketplace for LLMs is fired. I don't know if any investor is going to be excited. I mean, they're probably going to get some investors, but I don't know how many are going to be that excited at that valuation. Whereas internally in Microsoft, they're now going to be able to build their own research team, have their own due diligence, do whatever the hell they want to do. And Sam Altman and Greg Brockman are going to have free roll. Microsoft has been able to do this with LinkedIn. Microsoft has been able to do this with GitHub. Any company they've acquired, they've been able to retain the founders and give them the entrepreneurial, basically ecosystem to go work and do what they need to do, along with having the backing of resources, given they have a lot of resources since they're Microsoft. So this is not good for OpenAI. This is definitely, I think, really good for Microsoft now that they were able to get Sam Altman to be inside of the company and not let Sam Altman go do something else. And if anything, if Sam Altman's trying to start a consumer tech product, right, that's competing with the iPhone or something powered by AI, Microsoft has the resources way more than any VC fund that would give him the money to be able to build that in silence and just let them work on it for a couple of years before they even think of launching anything. And so he has a lot of resources. The other person this is really good for, just from a perception perspective and also from an actual implementation perspective of what AI means in the broader ecosystem that we're living in 2023 is, of course, Palantir. The reason this is so important for Palantir is because there is a reason that Ted Marbury, the global head of commercial, said, oh, that is what F shares are for. If you guys remember, and we'll talk about this in a second, my analysis on top of this tweet, what was one of the bear cases for Palantir back in 2021 and 2022? It's something I heard a lot of times underneath the YouTube videos as I was creating content around the company, is that they have F-class shares. F-class shares are founder class shares. It's a level of share class structure that essentially gives the founders full and complete control of the company. That means we as shareholders in the company literally cannot say we want to vote out Alex Karp or we want to vote out Shyam Sankar. Our opinion doesn't matter because they have F-class shares. F-class shares means they can do whatever the hell they want. And the reason it was a bear case was like, okay, if they're not maximizing shareholder value, which stock's up 200% this year, right? So they've maximized some shareholder value. Then the company, then the shareholders don't have the ability to like tell the company that you're doing something wrong. And as a result of that, like the company can do whatever the hell they want. My perspective against it, and I think a lot of people ended up agreeing with this, the problem was the stock was in the gutter for a while, so it was hard to see the light on this, but it still made sense long term, is that the reason they had these F-class shares, Peter Thiel and Alex Karp realized back in 2007, 2008, when they were really forming the company, that, hey, this technology is powerful. This technology is more powerful than anything we've ever created. And we're working with governments. We're working with democracies on the battlefield. We have a vision that we want to make sure this technology does not invade civil liberties, does not hinder the public's ability to be able to be protected and safe, and does not get in the hand of Russia or China or other dictatorships. And as a result of that, when the company was a private company, they realized, let's create an F-class share structure, so no matter what happens, there is no investor that could ever do a hostile takeover. There's no activist investor like what's going on with Disney right now that can just come in, buy up a couple $1 billion worth of shares and be like, hey, my opinion really matters because I brought in a ton of money. Palantir never cared about the money. They cared about the product. They cared about the implementation of the product, defending Western values at scale. So the idea that an investor could just come in and say, you guys know what? The stock's been flat for a couple of years. I'm going to buy up 2 billion shares, and now you guys are going to start selling to Russia because Russia's going to pay you a ton of money. That's going to make the shares go up. I'm going to make some money off of it, blah, blah, blah. Like, they realized a long time ago that cannot happen with this type of technology. And as a result of that, that is why they have F-class shares. Everyone thought these shares made the company uninvestable in 2022, where in reality, Carpentier knew what they were building. They knew they had to protect the company's trajectory. They knew any board member that was upset they wouldn't do biz with Russia or China could instantly push them out, or that was the reason to have full control over some of the most powerful software being used on the battlefield. They saw Sam Altman being fired 20 years ago. So if there was any board member on Palantir that was like, hey, we're not moving fast enough, we're not making enough business, we're not monetizing in a meaningful way, they could just kick them out if they didn't have these F-class shares, because the board members could conspire together to vote them out, and they could install some suit as the CEO of a company like Palantir. The reason Palantir has always been so exciting to me and been such an interesting company to cover, and been one of those companies that I cared about so philosophically, because I'm a philosophical person and I love analyzing those philosophical shareholder letters because it speaks to my soul. It speaks to something I'm investing in that is greater than just a product, but a mission, is because Carpentier, the founders, they knew something bad could happen if we don't protect the trajectory of the company. In order to do that, it is going to be at odds from a monetary perspective with shareholders. But we believe that shareholders will still invest if they recognize that we have the ability to still be a profitable, mega big billion-dollar enterprise, and we can protect the values that we care about as a company. It's a crazy vision. It's a contrarian vision, because a lot of times those things don't vibe together, but that's what Palantir did. And as a result of that, that's why they have F-class shares. So shareholders have to recognize, like, yeah, you really don't have a say in terms of the company. Carp is allowed to do whatever the hell he wants to do. It's a big, big bet on him as a human being. And that's why I think we analyze him so much on this channel. That's why we watch all of his interviews. That's why we talk about his personal life and try to understand his motivations, why he studied philosophy in Germany, all this stuff. Because if you don't do that stuff and you don't have a good understanding of who the hell you're investing in, you really don't know what that person could end up doing. And I think this OpenAI situation just proves that AI and the level of sophistication that this technology has and how it's implemented into the world matters. And I don't think there's any company on the planet, not Google, not Microsoft, none of these guys, that care more about the ethics of AI other than Palantir. And I think they knew this a long time ago, which is why they didn't let what happened to Sam Altman in the OpenAI board happen to them. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense to have F-class shares on a day like this. Everyone's kind of recognizing, oh, those shares actually matter. And we'll see what ends up happening in the future. But Palantir protected themselves. They saw what happened to Sam Altman, and they saw it happening 20 years ago. And it's not going to be happening to Alex Karp or Peter Thiel. The next thing we got to talk about is the NHS deal. So we got the new article today here by The Guardian, which is one of the largest publications in the UK. NHS England gives key role in handling patient data to US spy tech firm Palantir. Of course, they said spy tech firm. A company that works with the intelligence services wins the £480 million contract in joint bid with Accenture. So again, the NHS has not announced this, but we know a ton of sources in the UK announced this last week. The Guardian announcing it today. Likely, hopefully, being announced by the NHS this week. So let's read a little bit from this. The NHS is to hand a key role in handling patient data and share of a £480 million contract to the US spy tech firm Palantir this week. NHS England is set to confirm that Palantir's joint bid with professional services company Accenture to operate the NHS's new FDP has been successful. So that is what The Guardian is reporting, that it's going to happen. We knew that partnership with Accenture a week ago when the United Health, the digital health blog, reported it was actually happening. It is preparing to make an announcement on Tuesday that is likely to spark a fierce debate about the safety of patient data, public trust in the NHS, and Palantir's suitability to be involved in the FDP. Palantir shares at $20.70 right now in the pre-market, up about 1% from 2049, maybe because of this article signaling that tomorrow we're getting the NHS deal as well. The construction of the platform is the biggest IT contract the NHS has ever awarded. The contract will be for 5 years. The platform is designed to help individual hospital trusts and NHS integrated care systems, regional groupings of trusts share information and talk to each other more easily. That's pretty much it. I mean, the article is pretty small. It just is reporting what the NHS contract is, and it's talking about the controversies around the NHS contract. But the main update is that, according to their sources, this will be announced tomorrow, which is November 21st, 2023. Look, I'll believe it when I see it. We've been hearing for a while that it's going to be announced, and we haven't gotten any updates. But if it's coming soon, then I'll be very excited to see it. And that video will be my final congrats to shareholders that we got this contract. This contract will lay the foundation for a very long trajectory of Palantir becoming the most important software company in the world. And that's it. Managing 70 million people's healthcare is not a joke. And changing and fixing the NHS is not a joke. That is a company that is going to change the entire world. It's just that simple. However, the stock price might be factoring that in already. So that doesn't mean go buy up the stock because this deal is going to come. Like, it's very important to recognize the stock's up a lot, even in the pre-market right now. It's up a lot this year and in the past couple months. So what we could see is a sell-off of the news because the NHS contract is baked in, or we could see a run-up because it's not baked in. No one kind of knows. You could guess it's baked in. You could also guess it's not baked in, and then the stock could go higher. So we're going to see what happens with the stock. But regardless, to me, the stock's role in this is irrelevant. What's really relevant to me is getting this damn deal. Because if we didn't get this deal, it would be very bad for the company going further in terms of getting international governmental revenue, which has pretty much stayed stagnant or declined in growth over the past couple of years. That needs to peak up, and the way for that to peak up is for us getting this NHS contract and managing one of the largest, most complex healthcare infrastructures in the entire world, which is the UK's NHS. And it seems like we're going to do it. So hopefully I'll get to report soon that we got the deal. All right, last thing I want to show today. This was an exciting one, and I'm going to be reporting a lot more of this because it is 13F season. Jim Simmons Renaissance Technologies is one of the biggest bulls among all hedge funds. The fund bought 3.8 million shares of Palantir in Q3 and increased its stake to 43 million shares. For those that don't know Renaissance Technologies or Jim Simmons is one of the smartest people on the planet. He is a famous mathematician who is a Nobel Prize winner. He's a hedge fund manager, investor, mathematician, philanthropist. He is the founder of Renaissance Technologies, a quantitative hedge fund based in New York. And he is just one of the smartest guys who's been able to make money in the market because he is known as the Quant King. Founder of quantitative hedge fund Renaissance Technologies. Before his career in finance, he was a master code breaker for IDA, a successful mathematician, a professor at MIT and Harvard. He served as the chair of mathematics department at Stony Brook University. I mean, he's one of those guys where the stocks he buys you want to listen to. And I remember in 2022, I made a video when the stock was at $7 saying, well, Jim Simmons owns it. So that's another reason to be bullish, right? It was just kind of one of those videos like, hey, this guy's really smart and he sees something in Palantir. Maybe all of us should see something in Palantir. I don't know what his average was, but I mean, you would argue his average is pretty low given he was buying a lot in 2022. He's probably up a lot of that. So it is the second largest holding in its $56 billion fund. I mean, goodness gracious. Overall, they are the third largest shareholder of all institutional investors. Renaissance Technologies, third largest shareholder of Palantir in terms of institutional shareholders, second largest holding in its $56 billion fund, and they added 3.8 million shares in Q3, 43 million shares in total, which means in Q3 they were probably buying from $13.90 to $16. So that's the price they were buying if they were buying at that time. And, they're doing pretty well in those shares. The reason I wanted to bring this to people's attention is because Jim Simmons, again, if you just know him or do a little bit of research on him, he understands mathematics at scale. He has a net worth of $30 billion. I mean, his net worth is almost Palantir's market cap. This is the type of guy, to be able to have a net worth of $30 billion, you've had to do a lot in your life. From a quantitative perspective, Palantir is really a quant stock. I mean, it's AI, it's machine learning. Yeah, there's a lot of philosophy and Western values. That's why I like it as well, right? That's why I love the storytelling aspect about it. But underneath the hood, they have thousands of patents, the whole concept of an ontology, the abstraction layer, the introduction of forward deployed engineers to really understand the nuanced versions of what it means to be able to build architectures and frameworks that understand data management. I mean, it is a complex mathematical story at its core, just as much as it is a philosophical story. And I think that is what interested Jim Simmons into getting to the company years ago. And that's why he is one of the largest shareholders and is massively up on his position. All right, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Let's see what happens this week in the world of Palantir. This Sam Altman stuff definitely shake things up. And nonetheless, it's why Palantir, from the beginning, had a vision. They've executed on that vision. And those F-class shares is part of their vision. They saw what AI was going to become. They protected themselves and the company. And that's why Karp, no matter how much people hated him when the stock was at $6, could not have been voted out, because he knew that he was the right guy to lead Palantir. And he knew that any shareholder, whether it was public or private, that hated where the share price was, did not get to determine the trajectory of one of the most powerful companies in the world and one of the most powerful technologies in the world. And that's why he's here. He's the CEO, and he's leading the company today. That's it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Daily Palantir.